another episode of Kicking It with the KTrain, where I chat with people who have helped me keep an eye on my vision. I don't know if this guy needs much introduction, especially if you have read my book, Discovering a Life Without Limits. He features pretty prominently in it. A lot of we have gone on so many neat adventures together. He has been there for a lot of really cool events and times in my life. So we have climbed on 3 continents together now, I think, and just been done some pretty epic, cool things. So really excited to introduce and chat with my good brother, Brad Jaffke. Brado, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. This is a pretty cool opportunity. So happy to chat through all of our dumb/awesome stuff that we have done over the years. And yeah, just chat. So yeah, thanks for having me on. I
Yeah, man.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. No, man. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. So I kind of want to go back a little bit before the two of us met. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about, where/how you grew up and kind of how you got plugged into and connected and kind of fell in love with the outdoors.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in the Midwest. Born in Indiana. Spent most of my time in Wisconsin. Last couple of years I spent at a high school in Northern Illinois, and then went back to Madison, Wisconsin for college. Spent 5 years there, took a victory lap, and then eventually moved out here to the Northwest, which is where I am now. So that's the high level. The low level and how I got interested and how I eventually ended up meeting you was
Yep.
Basically had a second grade teacher. This goes way back.
Yeah.
That was super into the rainforest, the Galapagos Islands, like very sciencey teacher, we'll call her.
Mhm.
And basically, eventually, when I was in end of middle school, see now I'm not even remembering the exact time frame, but I think it was end of middle school, early high school. She eventually wanted to go to the rainforest, and so she looked up a couple companies and her and this other teacher were doing some analysis and basically found Global Explorers, as it was called at the
Yep.
time. I think that's no longer, they've merged with No Barriers and stuff, but
Yep.
at the time it was Global Explorers. And we, to make again a long story short, there's a lot more details in here, but we ended up going to the rainforest, which was
Yep.
really cool. So we flew into Lima, Peru, and then eventually flew out to Iquitos, which is literally on the Amazon River, and
Yep.
then took a 3-hour boat ride down the Amazon to a lodge, and literally stayed there for, I think it was a week or a little over a week. Super
Okay.
cool trip. Every day we're going out, into the jungle and just seeing everything you could picture that you would see in a rainforest. We basically saw. We're walking through the canopy walkways to like a ninth grade or a 10th grade or whatever I was at the time. It was the
Yep.
coolest thing in the friggin' world. So did that, and then came back, sort of resumed my normal life, if you will. After that,
Yeah.
went back to school, and then Global Explorers, because I went on their trip, I was on their, my mom or somebody was on their like email monthly or quarterly newsletters or whatever.
Hmm.
They sent one out and said, "Hey, we're getting this new trip together where we're gonna pair blind people or visually impaired people with
Yep.
sighted students." And I had never worked with a blind person before.
Yep.
But my mom was like, "Hey, this sounds, kind of cool. Are you interested or whatever?" And so I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it's a couple $1,000s. It was pretty expensive for a kid with a paper route or whatever I had at the time. But
Yeah.
basically pulled some money together and sort of, I think you had to apply for it. I forget.
Yeah, there was
So
an application process with some essay writing and stuff, but
right.
but yeah.
Okay.
So
So did that. And then basically got accepted into that. And then um, I think as your book states, and we all flew out to Estes Park, Colorado, and we all met each other there. So from there, we obviously, we don't need to rehash all the book or whatever, but we went to Colorado, and then we went to Peru, and we went to Kilimanjaro,
yep.
and then you and I took some other trips after that as well. So
Yeah.
I eventually ended up moving out here to the Northwest, which is where I am now. I'm basically north of Seattle at this point,
Mhm.
close to the Cascades, which is at this point become my sort of home mountain range,
Yep.
where I live with my wife and two kids and my dog. And I bum around in the mountains around here. Although right now mostly it's bumming around at my house as I raise these two little girls. But that's
Yep.
basically kind of my story, if you will, how I met you, and then how I eventually moved out here
Yeah.
as well. So yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, no, super, I mean, super high level. So now time to dig down into the weeds a little bit. And yeah, so I'm actually I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are kind of curious. I mean, for those people that have read the book, that they know my perspective on how you and I met. Uh, but like, what are kind of your recollections of that first trip that we kind of we took in, we flew out to Estes Park. So what are your kind of recollections of those early days? Like you said, you hadn't met or worked with anyone who was blind or visually impaired before. So like, take us through that long weekend from your perspective.
my first thought was, man, it's gorgeous here, because that area is, insanely beautiful.
Yep.
As far as working, and interacting with blind and visually impaired folks, and again, I think I was in ninth grade or something like, or it was in the summer. So, anyways, it was
I
beginning
think
of
you
high
were like
school, I believe, right? Or no,
I
it was
think I think you were actually like I think you were
older
going
than
into your
that.
senior year. I think
Okay.
you were going into your senior year
See, man,
for
holy
Peru.
smokes. Okay, there you
Yeah.
go. So that's how much I remember. Anyways, I guess what the point was, I was still a kid, if you will.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, man, these visually impaired folks can do a whole heck of a lot more than my brain thought they could. And that kind of, doesn't sound the greatest coming out of my mouth, but
But
it's
it's
hard.
the truth.
Yeah, and it's hard to imagine as somebody who hadn't ever worked with, anyone with any sort of visual impairment before. You just kind of get the impressions you get from, at that time, mostly movies and stuff, right? The internet was
Hmm.
still, I guess, the internet as well at that point. But so, interacting with you or Andrew or I'm trying to remember some of the other, Alicia, or any of those folks, or even some of the folks, that had quote unquote visual impairments, and maybe had some sight, but not all of it. It was just like,
Hmm.
wow, you guys can basically crush it, and so that was pretty eye-opening to me,
Hmm.
especially when, we started getting onto trails or dirt roads or whatever and practicing, some of the skills and things that we would use, in the coming days in Colorado, and then obviously eventually in Peru, and for you and I, and, many future trips. The competency, again, not meant to be offensive here, but it blew me away that,
Yeah.
like, these folks are very competent, and quite honestly, probably more competent than I am, because they have to, compensate for their loss of vision. So,
Yep.
your skills with organization or, memory, like Terry, I remember we were playing a card game or something, and he basically, could remember, like, I forget the game, but he remembered what everybody had basically laying in front of them.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there like, geez, I don't even remember what I had for lunch, right? And this guy's remembering every single card that's in front of him. So um, it was that part was pretty crazy, and very eye-opening to me. And I think as we've now determined, an older high schooler, it kind of shaped me as far as, my perception
Mhm.
on blind and visually impaired people, and certainly steered my life a little bit, going forward. So that was
Yeah.
really cool. And then obviously when we went to Peru, it was just mind blowing, like, the things you guys could do, and quite honestly, like, the stuff I thought that you wouldn't be able to do, you could. So I remember that being the biggest thing to me was, yeah, these are perfectly competent people. I don't know why I thought otherwise. And they're just basically like you and I, right? They're like me and
Yeah.
any of my other friends. So
Yeah.
um, that was probably the biggest thing right off the bat that hit me.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, like you know, it's pretty crazy. You know, it's not a, you know, from my perspective, that's not uncommon. But yeah, I mean, like you said, we went on and, you know, did some pretty pretty epic pretty epic stuff. But like, you know, I just, you know, it was so funny. Like, I remember, I think I was the first. I think I was the first blind guy that you guided
Yep.
in Estes Park.
You remember the story? Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to hear you tell the story from your perspective, because yeah, I remember it one way, so I want to see.
I mean, we're basically, you know, doing our first practice guiding, if you will, right? And it's like
Yeah,
it's a forest road for I don't even know if it's a
yeah,
forest road. It's just like a
yeah,
dirt road around the Estes Park, which is perfect.
yeah. It's
We're not
perfect.
gonna, you know, we're not gonna go up some scrambly rocky, you know, trail for our first go around with this. So yeah, we're literally just walking on a dirt road around the Estes Park like campus area or whatever, and all of a sudden, you know, we're walking at a decent pace, and I'm a generally a fast walker, and
Yep.
obviously you are as well, which is where the story is going. And all of a sudden, you know, we're just walking, and again, I'm looking around because I'm looking at the scenery and the mountains and
Yep.
stuff, and that's kind of when I really started to fall in love with the mountains, and like, man, this place is gorgeous. And then all of a sudden, no, I don't even stop. I look like behind me, right, just to kind of check in on you or whatever. You're right behind
Yeah.
me, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we're like literally probably 500 yards in front of everybody. Like, and you could still see them because there's you know nothing around and we're just on a
You're
road.
right.
But
You're
I'm
right.
like, all right, Kyle, we probably should like slow down. No, we just should probably stop and wait for everybody because we're way ahead of them.
That kind of
Oh,
became that kind of became a theme
yeah.
where, you know, we would charge ahead and
Hmm.
stop and charge ahead and stop. You know,
Yeah. That's
it kind of you know, I think, you know, in Peru, they eventually figured out, we gotta put these guys at the
well, yeah.
back of the
Or
group.
they like separated us, right? It was like, Brandon,
Yeah,
you go with somebody else, or
yeah,
I mean, I think on Killy too, we just like at the end there, as we're trying to get
yeah.
down, we just like you and I just went.
Oh yeah,
So
yep,
that same theme applied there. But
yep. But yeah,
yeah, man, it was good times.
yeah. But
Yeah.
let's go ahead. Let's fast forward to Peru. Like, you know, I mean, you were at that point. I mean, you had been taking Spanish for a while,
Yeah.
so you basically became one of our like de facto translators,
Yeah.
which was kind of fun. So like, I was like, oh, whew, I don't. At least I don't need to learn very much Spanish. I got Brad here.
Yep.
Yeah, talk us through some of the you know, some of the early days of Peru, and, you know, kind of your fondest memories from that trip.
Well, the first couple days we were just hanging out, right? We were
Yeah.
living out of a hotel um in Cusco.
Hmm.
And then so we did a couple hikes around some, looking back on it, like super cool archaeological, just like amazing places. I don't
Hmm.
think at the time I sort of realized the scope and grandeur of where I was.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, to a high schooler, it was like, wow, it was so cool. You know, like again, as I sit here as a parent now looking back at these experiences, it was like, man, I'm really glad I did these and my parents were excited and let me do them and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
so
it's
we were
cool because
bumming
like
around.
we just like we were in these places that we had read about
Uh-huh.
in our history textbooks,
Yep.
and like it was like, that part to me was really cool.
Just insane. And you know, you take out all the cool parts about, you know, interacting with blind kids and going on cool hikes and all the stuff we had coming up. But it's just like, man, just a culture shock, but then just really cool experiences.
Hmm.
So yeah, we were doing that. And obviously like Eric and his team was there too, which was kind of I don't think I was as starstruck as maybe some other people because I just really didn't know who the heck he was.
Sure.
You know, and I had some background, but I still was pretty new to that whole area. So, but it
Totally.
was cool to see them, you know, interacting and watch Eric and watch his, you know, team like Jeff and Eric Alexander and Diedrich and stuff, and just like watch them interact. And so that was really cool.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just you know, being there and hanging out with everybody was a pretty cool experience. It was nice to have a couple days of kind of breaking some more on the ice, if you will, before we, you
Sure.
know, set out on our, I think it was 7 days, right? Our hike.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah, it was a solid 7 days. I mean,
Yeah.
we had the one day there where we didn't do any hiking, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
we were just at the school,
Yep.
you guys playing soccer and painting the
Painting.
house and
Uh-huh.
all that. So that
Forgot
was
about
fun.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no. So, oh man, like, yeah. So like my memories of the trail, the Ancoscocha Trail, are, I mean, obviously, in the days leading up to before, after we, before we left Cusco, like you said, we so many cool archaeological
Hmm.
places, from the Sun Temple to the
Oh yeah.
to Ollantaytambo to
So you remember
the
all the names of these.
cathedral.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, all these really, amazing places. And
Uh-huh.
then, like, do you remember the salt mines that we went to?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
oh my
Yep.
gosh, like, so, like like 'cause it was really hard for me in the book to describe people, like, what we were actually, like, walking through. So can you kind of talk people through, like, what were you seeing? What was, like, what did you guys have to do to make sure that we got across and through these salt mines?
So that was crazy. I have my pictures up. Yeah. So it basically, I brought up a picture so I can remember.
Yeah.
It's basically a bunch of salt pools, right?
Mhm.
And it's in a massive valley. So like we sort of entered the trail, sort of entered at like, I want to say like 2/3 of the way up, if you will.
Mhm.
Like we didn't enter at the top or the very bottom. We kind of just like came into it. And so there was a bunch of stuff below us, but then also some above us.
Mhm.
And there was just a winding trail through these salt mines, and it's literally a bunch of pools of salt water everywhere. And there's a tiny trail, and I literally just pulled it up so I have a picture of it, and the trail is maybe so if you put your foot across the trail, it's like a foot and a half, like 1 foot wide.
Yep.
So you can basically just barely sort of comfortably walk, but you have zero clearance left or
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
In this picture, if you go right, you fall into a salt pool, and it's not like 3,000 feet down. It's like 4 feet, and you're going to fall into a little pool, and you're just going to be full of salt and water, and it looks
Yeah.
disgusting. Or
Yeah.
left, you sort of fall into like a little bit of a hill with a bunch of salt in it. At which
Yeah.
point you probably slide down, and it wouldn't be fun, right? So we're kind of like bobbing and weaving, and I think in addition to sort of the hazards, the path itself, while it was a path, I believe it was a little slick because it was basically covered in salt
Yeah.
and water, like frozen water, I believe, and salt. So
Yep.
it was just really not frozen water, but it was really interesting. And then of course it smelled like salt too,
Oh
because
yeah.
there's salt everywhere, right? So
Yep.
that's just wafting through as we're weaving our way and trying to, guide you and others through this spot. And that was one of those where it was like, man, I gotta watch my own footing here too, right? Like a lot of times I got pretty good, at least in the later years of probably obviously not at this point, but of looking ahead a little bit and being able to predict what I needed to do,
Right.
and then being able to focus on your stuff too. So,
Yep.
but at this point, A, I wasn't that good. None of us were, and then B, it's just like pretty gnarly little trail through there. Luckily, it wasn't that long. We weren't there for hours, but for those
No.
whatever 30 minutes we were walking through there, it was pretty crazy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then like, I think it was the very next day we started the main,
Yep.
our main hike. And you know somehow you and I wound up being tent mates a lot.
Oh, I think we were paired or no, I think you
I
went with Justin that first morning. Uh,
no, I think I was with you actually.
were you? Okay.
Yeah, because I remember, I think we were tent mates, because we camped right at the trailhead. And
That's right. Gosh.
I remember them coming and knocking on the
Yeah.
tent and telling
Like
us,
hot tea?
you're like, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, sure. I've never had hot tea served to me right at my tent, but that sounds lovely. Yes, I will take some.
So I mean that became a like a morning ritual.
Uh-huh.
Like we
Yep.
had our hot tea every morning.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think it was you that that guided me for that first little bit. And it was, like, I mean, I think that first day was, I mean, it was pretty aggressive. Just, it's like, all right, we're gonna just start going uphill.
Up. Like the first, if I remember correctly, the first morning it was right uphill, like 3,000 feet.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went down a little bit into the valley where the school was, I believe, right? Like the
Yeah.
second day was at the school. So yeah, we had the
Yes.
one day, and then, but I remember the morning, it was up. There was no, and we got to the top and at like around lunchtime, and I think we stopped for a while and ate lunch, and there was a good spot to eat lunch over there. But then we went down kind of into the valley. I'm looking through my pictures, and the ones after that are down a little bit
Yep.
towards the school. So, um, yeah, that was pretty crazy. It was like straight away, like, nope, we're going up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's like, I mean, I think for the most part, the path was maybe 3 feet wide,
Yeah.
3, 4 feet
Pretty,
wide.
yep.
And then, we're walking along this ridge basically with it just
Yep.
a drop into the valley. And it's like, you're looking down in this valley and this river down at the bottom. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Uh,
Super wild.
but yeah, so you actually, in the next day at the school, we obviously, bunch of blind people trying to paint a schoolhouse.
Yep. Yep.
Was interesting. I think I had more paint on me than on the building.
Yeah, you had a lot of paint on you, my guy.
But
I remember a picture that somebody took. I forget who. Might have been one of the professionals, or
yeah,
I was trying to look through it because I have a couple other people's pictures just stored in my as well. I can't find the picture, but there's a picture of you smiling with the biggest cheesy smile on your face. You have a paintbrush in one hand, and then like your forehead and like nose is just blue paint, and there's like blue paint like halfway up your forearm and stuff, right?
yeah.
So
I think that was taken right after Alicia like smacked me in the face with a
okay,
paintbrush. So
okay, yeah.
I don't know
You
why
can
I
blame
deserve.
her.
I don't know why I deserve that, but I probably. But you actually, so you grew up you grew up playing soccer.
I did. Yep.
And so I don't know if it was you, someone spearheaded, and I mean, obviously all these Peruvian, children are, I mean, wicked good
Really good.
soccer, wicked
Really
good
good.
soccer players. So
Uh-huh.
you were like, talk us through that wicked little soccer game that y'all were
Well,
playing.
yeah, I mean, we painted the school, right? And then it was kind of the elders of the town were preparing the crazy I believe it was pig dinner where they basically, and again, this was 15 years ago, so I'm almost 20 years ago. I'm forgetting all the specifics, but basically they cooked it in the ground, right?
Yep.
And so they did some really cool process where they create fire and somehow heat up, oh, it was rocks, I think, and they cooked it over
Yeah.
rocks or something, right?
Yep.
So anyways, my point is that process had hours to go, right? Like we finished up the
Yes.
school in like early afternoon, maybe after lunch, and then
Yep.
we're kind of sitting there like, hey, what do we do now? And all these kids are really good at soccer, and I think we had brought a couple soccer balls as sort of gifts.
We
So
did.
somebody had a pump and we blew up the soccer balls, and then yeah, we just started playing with them. The problem again is, and at the time I was a varsity soccer player. I mean, I'd like to think I was half decent, right?
Right.
But we were playing at 12,000 feet in elevation, and I
Yeah.
lived at 300 feet of elevation back in the States.
Right.
So yeah, it was just a friendly sort of pickup game of soccer, if you will. But
Yeah.
we got our butts kicked by a bunch of 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because
I think the oldest one that was playing was like 10 years old, like
yeah,
maybe
if that,
maybe 11,
yeah,
if that. Like these kids are
They were,
running circles around you guys.
but they were just,
I
I
don't,
was so
I may have,
winded.
yeah, I think I
That
may have,
was,
yeah, it was crazy.
yeah, that was my first sort of experience at elevation, if you will,
Right.
and feeling the effects of that because I was like, I'll be fine. I'm literally a varsity high school soccer player who, we ran a whole bunch for soccer and I was in really good shape. That was around the time I could, I had clocked a sub, 430 mile. Like I was in good shape and
Yeah.
it doesn't matter when you're up at 12,000 feet. So
Yep.
it was really cool though, just to, again, like culturally and stuff to like just hang out with these kids, right? And there was a language barrier. Like, yeah, I had some Spanish and I could put together broken sentences and understand some of what they were saying. But like at points, it was the age old saying of like you didn't need to talk to know what was going on or enjoy
Yeah.
the laughter or different things.
Yep.
So sport can definitely do that. And it was on display there because I just remember it being super fun and certainly didn't want it to stop, but eventually obviously the dinner was ready, but
Yep.
yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah. No, just a blast. And
Yeah.
then, yeah. And then like, so like we move on from the school the next day. And I think that was kind of the day that, the global explorers, recognize that, oh, we got some people that are pretty fast and we got some people that are not as fast. So
Not
we're
as
going to
fast. Yep.
split the group up. And so I think you and I were in the second group.
Yep.
So we got to sleep in a little bit and, luxuriate over our choke meal of a breakfast.
Yeah, you love that stuff.
Oh, it's delicious.
I think that
Uh,
was the day that we hit. Oh, nope, it was the day after. Sorry. Yeah. So we went over right coming right out of the school was a fairly high pass. It wasn't the
yeah,
highest
it wasn't
point.
so
No.
I think that was all of us are that was our first time above like 14,000 feet.
Yeah, it was
So
14 some thousand feet. And the view, again, I'm looking through the pictures here as we talk, but the view, the top of that pass was really cool, like snow-covered mountains, right? Like you come out like
yeah,
a classic, like you come up to the top of a ridge and or a col, and in front of you is just absolutely gorgeous Andes Mountains covered in snow in the middle of June,
yeah,
crystal, or there's some clouds, but pretty clear out. It was so cool.
yeah, yep.
So
And yeah, no, I mean, so like, I mean, we just kind of motor along
yep,
day after day.
yep.
Uh, what are I I think I remember you weren't guiding me on this section, but there was one section. I think you might have been guiding Terry. Um, remember the part it was like a 2.5 foot wide path, and it's basically like a 200-300 foot drop into rushing rapids on the right.
Yep.
And so like, and I think you were like, if I remember correct, I think you actually wrote our trip dispatch that day.
Yeah, it
and
did.
uh and you were like, there was a time when you were like, oh, I should probably pay attention to the person that I'm guiding at this
Yes.
point.
And I have a picture of it because I remember this exact moment. And the problem was it wasn't like a firm, like terra firma, if you will, right? Like the ground
Right.
was how do I describe this? Loose,
Yeah.
gravelly, but not even gravelly, like almost sand like
Yeah.
where like not like beach sand, but like pretty loose, like it's not even choss as I would describe it. It's like it's
Right.
really fine and basically it looked like somebody had taken like a shovel, right? Like a flathead shovel and just
Hmm.
like cut a path through this, it was only probably 100 feet long the stretch before you got back to like more firm. But for that 100, 200 feet, it was like there wasn't basically a trail. They made one. And then, yeah, down to the right in my picture that I'm looking at right now was whatever. You can't see the bottom in the picture. And yeah, it was rapids and rocks. And, before that, you'd go through some cattails and some tall grass. Like it wouldn't be
Yeah.
fun to fall down that way. So,
No, it was not a slope that you wanted. You didn't want to step off the
no.
trail.
Yeah.
And
Nope.
yeah, and like there were a couple of people that were a little little freaked out.
Yeah, it was a little it's not the standard Inca Trail, right? It's the Inca
No.
Scotia Trail, so it's billed as being more difficult, but the views you get, I mean, just this is the first time I looked back through the pictures in a while, like at this level, but it's just insanely cool views, and
Yeah.
there's way less people. So um yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously we, cook on through, and if we fast forward all the way kind of to the end,
Yep.
um, it was you guided me on the last leg,
Yep. Up to
uh,
the
up
Sun Gate.
up to the Sun Gate, through the Sun Gate, and then down into Machu Picchu itself. So
Hmm.
tell us your recollections of those moments, and that little stretch.
I don't mean to be a broken record, but it was kind of the same thing where,
Yeah.
and it's super steep, that last part up to the Sun Gate. Like it's almost hands and knees, almost,
Yep.
like really steep steps, right? So I even have a picture here of one of the gals going basically almost, they have their hands out. So
Yeah.
super steep going up, and then when you get to the top, it's literally the Sun Gate, and we got there what, like 4 in the afternoon or something.
Something like
So the
that. Like
sun was
right
just
right as the sun was starting to
perfect,
set.
perfect time. And it was absolutely gorgeous. And I remember trying to describe it to you, and I was just like, God, I like don't have words for this. And I'm working on like regular high school English here. I'm not a smart English person, and I cannot find the words to describe what we're looking at. Right, we're looking down at Machu Picchu. The sun is literally it's like the golden hour. If you're a photographer, it'd
Yep.
be that perfect time to take tons of pictures, and
Yep.
everybody's hooting and hollering, and it was a pretty cathartic moment
Yeah.
for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah.
So that was, just absolutely insane.
Yep.
And to sort of, retrospectively look back at the last week, and it certainly wasn't roses and daisies the whole trip, right? Like a lot of us had some
No.
challenges along the way, and whether it was the elevation or,
Mhm.
getting sick or eating
Mhm.
not the food we're used to eating, or physically
Right.
demanding nature of hiking that
Mhm.
I certainly wasn't used to it either. So, and then to sort of everybody made it to the end, and to be there together with everybody was a pretty cool experience. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we get to the end. We do our tour of Machu Picchu. We're all just awestruck, and
Yeah.
so humbled by what we've done.
Hmm.
Um, and then a handful of us start, hatching plans. And so, like, what like were you part of the initial plan hatching, or like did you kind of get roped into it
I was not a
afterward?
part of the
Like,
initial plan hatching. That was definitely you and Justin and Terry. Um, this is the funny part about, not funny because it was not fun at the time.
right.
No, this was earlier because we were on the train, right? When you guys were thinking about this.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is okay.
Yeah.
We went back
But
to
yeah.
Cusco that night and had pizza in the hotel. And I got not fun food poisoning from that pizza.
That's right.
Anyways,
Oh
that's
man.
completely unrelated because I think you guys were already hatching the plans after that or
Yes.
before that. So
Yeah.
no, I think for the plans, you guys just like started querying people, right? You're like, hey, do you want to do another one? Or like, are you interested in doing more? And I was whatever, a 16, 17-year-old kid. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? This was a heck of a lot of fun. Let's do another
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Not thinking about logistically, I'm a year away from college and I don't know where I'm going to get the money, but it's like,
Right.
whatever, we'll figure it out, right? Like we'll make this happen. So, I was in, and at that point, I think I was, again, retrospectively looking back at it, I was starting to fall in love with mountains and outdoor stuff and things that I
Hmm.
hadn't seen before,
Hmm.
growing up in the flatlands of the Midwest. So that was kind of the start of my love for the mountains just in general. And, so the prospect of going on another trip sounded great.
Yeah.
So I think you guys literally threw out Kilimanjaro right out the bat, and obviously
Yeah.
that's where we ended up going.
Yep. Yeah. So kind of between Peru and Kilimanjaro, like I think you went off to college.
I think I was
And
technically a senior in high school. Um,
okay.
Because
Okay,
then
you
college
were
was
that
literally the summer, like after we got done with Kilimanjaro, I was like, whoo, that was a
you
lot
went
of
to
fun. And
college.
now I got to go to college. Holy smokes. Yeah. So I think I was
Yeah,
literally
okay.
a senior. Yep.
Yep. Okay, that
Yep.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but you kind of started you kind of started getting really into I think you started getting into rock climbing. You were
Yep.
kind of starting to enjoy
Yep.
more of the outdoor
Yep.
lifestyle.
Yep.
And and then we obviously went to Kilimanjaro. So
Yep.
um I mean, just another amazing experience. So I mean, tell us your recollections of those early days of Kili, that whole trip, and some I would say that at least in the early parts of the climb itself, I don't think you or I were particularly challenged. But just go ahead and kind of walk us through kind of what happened from your recollections.
Yeah. I just remember not really knowing what I was getting into for starters,
Mhm.
right? We got a big gear list from Global Explorers, and I didn't have basically anything on the list.
Right.
Had a lot of clothes that did really well in the Midwest winters, but as far as, breathable, good outerwear for existing and thriving in the outdoors and the alpine and the subalpine type environments, I didn't have much. So went with
Yeah.
my parents to REI and got some basic shells and things like that, and then kind of
Mhm.
patched it together. I think I had a big hooded cotton sweatshirt that I wore for a lot of the trip, which again, looking back at it,
Yep.
probably wasn't the best, but I didn't have a lot of, like, I was a high school. I didn't have
Yeah.
$1,000 to go spend on a bunch of gear. So, um, yeah, put all that stuff together and got on the plane, and obviously remember we flew through Amsterdam, which is pretty wild, to get down to Tanzania, which is crazy, right? Like what a drastic
Oh,
change of
we have to pause right there. You and I went on a hunt for food
we did.
in the
That's
Amsterdam
right. And
airport,
whoa, we saw
and
some characters.
uh,
Oh God.
I mean we came across a dude like drinking a beer at like 7 o'clock in the
At
morning
yeah, like 0600 in the morning or
on
something,
a
which wherever he came from probably was a different time, right? Like he was coming from
right.
Amsterdam. But yeah, we ran into some characters. We were starving. It was like an 8-hour flight to Amsterdam
Yep.
overnight, and we got there in the morning, and then we had another 8-hour flight down to Kilimanjaro Airport. So
Yep.
in Tanzania. So I was like, yeah, when we had like 2 hours, we had a big layover, which made sense. We needed to make sure we got on the made our connection. But yeah, we went. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah, we wandered the airport for a while. And I was like, man, God, I don't know where we're gonna get food. I don't even recognize any of these places. I think we eventually found something, but uh,
I think
yeah.
we wound up at McDonald's,
Did we
and
end at
like
McDonald's? I wouldn't
they
doubt
had
it.
they had yeah, they had no syrup, and you were
Oh,
like
that's right. And I was
you were
pissed because I
not
wanted to serve my hotcakes. Oh, I still
Mo-
love hotcakes, man.
most expensive hotcakes I think either of us
Oh
have ever
God,
bought.
yeah, yeah. At the airport in
Things and
Amsterdam, I don't think you could find a more expensive hotcake.
yeah.
Oh God, yeah. So we did that,
Oh
and then we flew down, and this was Global Explorer's first time doing this trip, only time I think that they did this trip. So they set up
yeah.
like they tried to set up some community service type activities, and it didn't. We did some stuff, but again, like the cool part about those first couple of days was we got to like just hang out with the locals, and like we hung out with some kids at a
Hmm.
school and went to like a taxidermy and just like, I mean, that was again, not to pump up Global Explorers here, but that was like some of the cool things that they did. It was like we didn't just go and climb the mountain or hike the trail. Or like we immersed
Yeah.
ourselves in the culture a little bit in the beginning
Yep.
or at the end, depending on the trip. But you really got to
Yep.
like hang out with, which again is just so cool to
Yeah.
me. So we did that for a couple days, and what else did we do? Yeah, we went to this taxidermy, hung out at the school. I did like a bunch of like they taught us how to cook some of their food
Yep.
in their local custom ways. We took a whole bunch of pictures, and then like 3 or 4 days later, we set out. Yeah,
And you and
yeah,
I, we were roommates pretty much almost the entire time,
we were.
and
Yep.
somehow we were in Moshi, and you and I got we started calling it the servants' quarters because you and I had
Oh,
this
that's right.
tiny ass little room.
Oh, small
Like,
room. And then I saw somebody else's room and I was like, what the heck? How did we end up in this room?
yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
we could move our beds maybe 6 inches apart.
Yes. Yes.
That
You and
we
I
weren't.
basically were
So
sleeping in a queen bed together.
basically, like we
Yeah.
were almost snuggling together.
Yes. Yes.
It was kind of freaky, man. But yeah,
It was pretty wild.
uh, yeah. So like everyone else had these like nice big luxurious rooms.
Yeah.
We're just like,
Yeah.
come on.
I don't know if we were like it was like a corner room or like, however the layout of the building worked that, we kind of got like shafted.
Yeah.
Not sure I forgot about that part. Yeah. Obviously it didn't matter. We still had a great time.
Oh, we
Uh,
had a blast. We had a blast. But yeah, we start heading up the old hill and
yep.
um man, that first day it was just kind of
It was.
cruisy through the rainforest and
Yep.
you know so just walk us through. I have so many funny memories of you and me from those first couple of days, and then obviously the very end of the trip we were pretty
Cruising
tight
down.
by then.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's
but
where you and I really started to get to know each other a little more, right? Like these from this point in the story or our story, if you will, through the
yeah,
next 7 days, we kind of got to know each other a lot better.
yeah,
And I think there was some, just as because like you said, the first kind of that Kilimanjaro is such a cool area because there's like 4 different distinct biomes or
yep,
ecological sort of zones, and so that first part was literally a rainforest, which is wild.
yeah,
And all of a sudden it kind of ends at like the where that first hut was, and then it turns into like this sub I forget what it's called, but it's like Sahara grasses
yeah,
and then it turns into like more of like a alp or
like an alpine
subalpine.
desert, yeah, or something like that.
Yes, exactly. And then obviously the top it's straight alpine. But we're just kind of cruising, and yeah, it wasn't like as straight up as like our first day in Peru, for instance. Like we were just kind of
Mhm.
cruising, like yeah, we're gaining altitude, but it wasn't as drastic, which was kind of nice. It gave you
Yeah,
a little bit more of a intro to it. But yeah, I mean, I think we got to know each other a lot better. We started
we
talking about
really,
some personal stuff and things like
yeah.
that.
I mean, we
Yeah,
just start chatting a lot,
yeah.
sharing stories, and then you and I, really like everyone else was trying to come up with these complicated,
Oh, that's right.
systems describing stuff, and you were just kind of like, screw it, I'm just
Hmm.
gonna say up,
Yes.
over,
God.
down,
Yep.
like that kind of became our thing. It was
Yep.
simple, like
That's right.
simple, efficient, and we cooked it. Like we moved.
Well, and that
Um,
was part of the issue, right? It is if I tried to say all the fun things, which were fun to say, I'm not gonna lie, like chicken
sure.
heads and shin busters and
Yeah.
I forget the other one near your head, but a lot of them were like 5, 6, 7 syllables, and if I'm saying it 100 times or I need to say 2 or 3 of them in a row really
Right.
fast so you have all the information you need, it was
Yeah.
just like I was stumbling over words, and then at that point you're falling, and most of the time you didn't actually fall, which was nice, but it's like why don't I just say over instead of whatever cute fun thing I can think of, and I'm not a this
Yeah.
might blow some
We,
people's minds, but that's not like my area of expertise is to be like cute.
no,
So
like
you know,
we're both practical dudes, and we're like,
yeah,
what is the most efficient way to get us over this trail,
hmm,
quickly
yep,
and efficiently and safely? And
yep,
so like that's what we did. Like we just kind
yep,
of figured it out. We figured it out. We were simple to the point, and you
yes,
know, but we really, but it gave us a lot of time. Like because you weren't stressing about those little details, it gave us a lot more time to actually enjoy conversation,
yep,
I think.
yep,
And really really cemented our bond as friends. And then,
yep.
um, you know, but I do remember this one funny little story. It was the first night we spent on Kilimanjaro, and I think it was you, me, Terry, and Justin in a
Yeah,
hut.
in the hut. Yep.
Yeah. And um and Terry was on the top bunk, and like, you, me, and Justin, that like, there was one top bunk and then three bottom
There's like a
bunks or something
three
like
on the ground. Yeah, because it was in like a triangle hut, like an A-frame, right? So like there was
right.
one bunk and then basically somebody below the bunk and then two people at the basically, if you can imagine it, like the head and the foot. So it
Yep.
was like three sides of a square and then a bunk. So there's
Yep.
four people, and I was in one of the out floor bunks, and
Yep.
I think Terry launched a sleeping bag or pillow down or something. Like he didn't, I don't think he meant to, but it hit me like straight in the head, and
Like
I
early in the morning. Like
early in
this
the
is like
morning, and I let out
5,
some
6
potty
in the morning.
language.
You let out you let out some choice words.
Yeah, yeah. I've gotten better with being a father now, watching my language, but
I was gonna say we've made it far,
yeah.
and like, man, no one who knew me back then would be, you know I think everyone would be stunned that we've made it this far and you haven't dropped an F-bomb. So
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better in my old age here. But yeah, I mean that was it was just fun, right? Like hanging out. We were in those huts, which is kind of fun, and
yep.
again, getting to know you guys, and at that point it was pretty early in the trip and everybody's feeling pretty good, and we weren't, at 15,000 feet yet. So
Yeah.
the first day or two was pretty fun.
Yeah. But like the next day we went up, to like kind of midway point of the mountain, and then
Yep.
we took a rest day, and
Yep.
got to do some pretty cool hiking and stuff around
Yeah.
the area.
Yeah.
But then kind of the real
Then it got a little
climbing,
gnarly. Yeah.
the real climbing kind of started, and that was kind of when I think a lot of people started really feeling it. Like, what are your
Yes.
recollections of the last kind of 2 days?
I mean, I think I remember when we got to, I think the middle hut, was called like Harumbo Hut or something like that.
Yep, something like that.
Which is funny because I just think of the gorilla at the zoo,
Yeah,
Harambe, but this is, I believe Harumbo was the name of it. And I remember when we got there, and I was like, man, it's a kind of a good thing. Like a rest day here would be a good idea. So I was
yeah,
glad we had that baked in, because even though I probably didn't admit it at the time, like we had basically gained 6,000 feet of elevation in 2 days, which is pretty crazy, even if you're in
yeah,
really, really good mountain shape, right? So I
yeah.
think that was a good trip or a good spot. And then we got to hike out to like the Zebra Rocks or something, which was absolutely
Yep.
crazy, crazy visual landmark. So
Hmm.
that was cool. But we spent a lot of days just hanging out, right? I think a couple of us even went. They were selling Cokes at that hut.
They were.
Like $6 or $7 or $8, something ridiculous. But like we bought a couple and shared them, and that was like a cool cool little treat. And just like I remember drinking them, and we were looking like over, there was low valley clouds, and we were looking over into the clouds, and just like I was like, man, again, this is so cool. So yeah, but then we went up to Kibo Hut, was the
Hmm.
last one, I believe, and
Yep.
that's where we kind of left. At that point, it's like almost alpine, right? It's alpine in the fact that there are no trees, there's basically no bushes, and you're exposed to the wind and the elements, and it's not like complete alpine as I would think of it,
Hmm.
with snow and stuff like that, but it's very subalpine.
Yeah.
And the wind was ripping, and there was zero shelter from any of the elements other than until you got to the hut, and we're at 15,000 feet or something crazy, right? So we're taller
Yeah.
than 14ers out by you in Colorado. So
Yep.
people are feeling the altitude. Luckily, the trail was literally a dirt road.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a ton of objective terrain hazards, which was really nice, but it didn't matter. Like it was still, people physically and probably mentally were pushing their limits, which again is kind of cool. That's kind of the point of this, or one of the points of this trip. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, then we got to Kibo Hut, and I remember being like, wow, we have another like whatever 4,000 feet to go. Like how are we ever going to do that? So
Yeah, and we have to do this in like one push.
in one push. This is there's no more shelters, right? There's no more huts. And that last hut, we were all together, right? It wasn't like
Yep.
separated. Everybody was in the same hut. And yeah, so I think we got there, and then we left was there a rest day in there?
I think we had a rest day in there.
Okay.
A little rest day.
And then we left at
I think,
midnight or 10
and then
a.m., 10 p.m. or something.
something like that. It was like, I think we left
Yeah.
right around midnight.
Okay.
And yeah, we just start trudging up. But yeah,
Yep.
summit night was pretty cool.
Summit night was, I think, literally when I fell in love with the mountains, like for real, because that
Yeah.
whole experience, I had never done anything like that before. Waking up at midnight, hiking literally through the night by headlamp.
Yep.
And it was just super, and we made a lot of noise. So, all the alpine starts I've done now, it's a little different, obviously, but
Sure.
it was just super cool to be hiking up and crunching on the snow eventually. And then, the sun starts to rise and you get that burst of energy. It's the same reason I still do this stuff. The sun
Yeah.
hits you and you get that burst of energy. And then obviously we made it to the top. And all the struggles kind of wash away, and we got some really cool pictures at the top and things like that. So I believe you guys took a piss at the top. I didn't join in that shenanigans, but I believe you guys did that, or some of you did. Is that correct?
There's a few of us that
Yeah.
hey, dude, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
I mean, so that whole thing was really cool. And again, like we had, there were struggles on that summit night with different folks,
Sure.
but it, like, the whole experience was, for me personally, and I think for a lot of folks, it was just a cool, eye-opening time that sort of, certainly for me, shaped my, where I moved eventually, and the rest of my life as it's been up to today. So
Yeah,
pretty cool experience.
Yep. It's as you alluded to, we ripped down that Kilimanjaro.
Forgot about that part too.
We sprinted down, basically sprinted down from
You remember
Gilman's Point
that?
all the way. Oh my gosh, it was you, me, and Max were just
Max
ripping.
was with us. Terry was with us for part of it. It was like I'm gonna see if I have a picture of that to try to remember that. It was like
it was basically a giant ass sand dune.
Yes, but it was like 3,000 feet, right? This wasn't like, and we were basically boot skiing on a sand dune, and we just once we got past sort of the objective hazards, and then we just went. But we had to stop because I was literally tired. I was like, it's but we just cruised down, and then we got to the bottom, and we were just like covered in
this volcanic
dust and volcanic
ash.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous.
And then I believe Eric Alexander brought up some Pringles, which was like the best Pringle I ever had, because we basically were tasting dirt and dust and water because we didn't have any flavored beverages at that point.
Right. So, I think Pringles and passion fruit juice is what I remember.
Yeah. So it was sweet and salty, like literally the perfect.
It was perfect. And then just cruised all the way down, and then you and I, by the very last day, you and I are just like, all right, see you folks, we're we're just gonna cruise. And you and I just went into a different gear, and I think we got to the gate, hour plus ahead of everyone.
Like 2 hours before anybody else. Like we were just, I think I took a nap in the bus.
I think so.
And I remember going down, I kept hearing monkeys or whatever, just crazy rainforest animals. And I kept being like, all right, Kyle, just stop for 1 second. I want to see if I can find it. And I just could never, ever find whatever was making it. I'm pretty sure it was monkeys, and I could never find them. And we saw a couple going up.
Yep.
But you're obviously moving a little slower going up and a little more deliberate. And but I would just be like, okay, stop. We're like an hour and a half ahead of everybody. It's not going to matter. And I wanted to find them so bad, and I could not.
They were
whatever
just
way I looked.
What, man? Like, they just did not want to. They didn't want to come out for us.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
Oh, well.
But I remember you were like, "Yo, Brad, let's just go. I don't really care."
I didn't really care about
end
the
of the trip. Yeah.
But yeah. So you were the crazy one that decided that I want to keep doing this with.
I was
with you. So you were the only one left that kind of wanted to kind of keep doing this. And so you and I, we got connected with Peter Green, and then I think he introduced us to the Cascades, and and that's kind of how I think that was when you kind of started finding a love for,
Yeah.
mountain rescue and the real technical side of stuff. So like walk
Yep.
us through that journey, like that part of the journey.
Well, so you wrote an article, right, for Backpacker. I believe that's how this
Yeah.
connection works, right? So you read
Yep.
that article, and it's like a little 400 word blurb, right, of
Yeah.
like, right into the editor or something. So that gets published, and then Peter reaches out to you. So Peter Green, we have no idea who this cat is,
Yeah.
reaches out to you, or I think reaches out to Global Explorers, and then they forward over to you.
Yep.
And they were basically like, we have no affiliation with this guy. We have no idea who he is, and he wants to hike the PCT through start to
Yeah.
finish, and he's got some history with and again, we'd have to talk to Pete. I forget his history with blind and visually impaired folks. Do you remember?
I think his mom and sister were both VI.
There you go. Okay. So
So
he's like he at that point was well, at that point I'm a freshman in college or something. I think he's like 5 or 6 years older than me. So
yep.
anyway, he's a little older than us, but not crazy amount.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I want to hike the PCT. And we're like, okay, we don't have 6 months to hike the PCT or 4 months or whatever it's going to take. Also, we kind of just wanted to like climb some mountains. And he was like, well, I live in Eugene, south of Portland, in Oregon, and I climb lots of mountains. So he was like, you guys can come out here. I'll put you up in my whatever uncle's cabin for a couple days, and we can literally,
Yeah.
we'll go teach you stuff.
Yep.
And so we fly out. You and I just fly out. Justin was busy with something, or I forget what the deal
Yep.
is. You and I fly out to Portland International
Yep.
Airport. He meets us there. Again, we've never met this dude. Looking back on it, it's kind of wild. Like, we're just gonna fly out to the
Yeah.
airport to meet a random
Yeah.
person. We're gonna go stay in his uncle's cabin, right?
So,
Like,
yeah.
what were we thinking?
Yeah. Well, here's the I'm like 16. You're like
I'm like 18
just
and a half
finishing
or
up
19. Yeah.
yeah, you're like a
Yeah.
freshman in college. Like we had like this would never fit. Like
No.
it's crazy. Like
Yeah. Looking back on it, like, man, that was probably not the smart, but luckily turned out to be the nicest guy in the world, most coolest
oh my
guy
God, yeah.
in the world. So Pete, if you're listening to this, I'm glad we took you up on your offer.
Totally.
So we fly out there and he picks us up, and again, just the nicest guy in the world and super knowledgeable. He's a member at the time of Eugene Mountain Rescue, which sort of
Yep.
sparks my interest like 7-8 years down the road, to where I eventually joined a team up here. But yeah, he teaches, as I've told people, literally the basics and ground fundamentals of mountaineering and traveling in the mountains. To this day, he has probably taught me 90% of what I still know in practice. So
Yep. Same.
he just teaches all that stuff to us. We eventually climb Hood to Illumination Saddle. We don't actually summit, but we camp out on the saddle, which is one of the coolest places. A lot of people climb Hood just to climb Hood, and then they get to the top and they ski down. But like camping at the saddle was so cool. And we went over the little saddle at sunset and just had the coolest view in the world.
I mean, and the wild thing to me was like, it's July.
Yeah.
And we're camping on snow.
Yep.
And like, I mean, like we're just sitting there, and like the way you and Pete are describing, like the sun is just
red, like just
magical.
Pink and red, and one of the coolest sunsets I think I've ever seen, ever.
Here you and I are, we're like, what the, like, WTF? Like,
yeah,
we've got all this cool stuff right in our backyard. Like,
yeah, yep.
It was wild. It was wild to us.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, oh God, yeah. It was just insane. So then we go down, right? And then we were going to climb Mount Adams, but there was a fire on the south side of Adams that year, and I believe Cold Springs Campground and the trailhead at Cold Springs was closed. Like you literally couldn't get there because there's fire. So we don't tell the Rangers this, but we went to St. Helens and sort of poached, as they would call it, without a permit, and we hiked a little ways up and camped and practiced some snow caves and stuff and putzed around, and then eventually ended up hiking the rest of the way up to the summit of St. Helens, and then came down again. without a permit, which this day and age would not be very kosher, but we did it at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think the statute of limitations is passed, so
Yeah, I think we're probably in the
I
clear
think
there.
we're in the clear.
Yeah.
We had a little adventure coming down because
We
like
did. We got a little
it took
off route.
a little off route.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we got so
But
caught up in the glissading, right? Like that was
yeah,
so fun. And then I think we glissaded down like over the wrong side of a ridge, and basically
yeah,
we had to traverse back to the worm flows route, which is the route we were taking.
yeah.
And we had to go across probably you probably remember, it's like probably a 50 to 100-foot sketchy section of
Oh yeah.
like front pointing
Yep.
lateral stepping, and if you
Oh yeah.
fall, it's 30 degrees down the snow into not car-sized rocks, but refrigerator-sized pointy rocks. It would not have been fun. So
No, no. There would have been some broken bones. There would have
yeah,
been
wouldn't have
there
been
would
a
have been
death fall probably unless you hit the wrong spot, but like it wouldn't have been fun.
no.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so we eventually make it all the way down, and
Yep.
then Pete introduces us to, he's like, the one thing you have to do after, a 12-hour day in the boots is you just load up on pizza and
Yep.
burgers and all the greasy foods you can. And we and we're like, all right, this dude is our guy.
Well, then the funniest part was we go to Mount Hood Ski Bowl, I believe is what it is.
Yes,
or like the fun park, and you went bungee jumping, which I'm looking at a picture of you bungee jumping, and then we went down those
Alpine slide.
Thank you, but you're on the little cart things, right?
Yep.
And I think we literally sent you down one, and Pete's behind you yelling at you.
Yep.
And I believe you fell out of the track.
Well, you raced down.
I raced down and took pictures
because you wanted to get pictures, and then you're standing on the
bridge.
The bridge.
Yeah.
You'd see me go ass over tea kettle.
Oh God, it was so funny, so funny.
Slide across the rocks like I'm all torn up. I mean, oh man.
Luckily you had a helmet on, so it was all good.
I did. It was all good. It was all good. Oh man. But then you took another trip out there, and
we did.
Did Adams and Rainier, and again just learned more and more about the mountains.
Yep. Highly successful trip, right? We planned to do Adams and Rainier, and that was sort of the formation of our more formal team, if you will, for a couple of years there. And we got everybody except you out, which honestly, obviously it sucked you weren't there, but like the five of us kind of got our systems down and stuff, and got to figure things out for ourselves and get our skills at a good, decent spot before we brought you into the fold. So again, obviously it sucked you weren't there, but like retrospectively looking back at it, it was still a super solid trip for the five of us. And we summited Adams and then turned around, and I think we took a rest day at I forget the lake on the north side of Adams where it was just mosquito-y as heck. And then went to do the Emmons route. Oh geez, I couldn't even think of the name, on Rainier. And made it up there as well. So again, not without each of its own challenges and stuff like that, but we certainly made it up and down each of them and learned a lot along the way. And then we finished up that trip without you, and then we were kind of trying to decide what to do, right? And then we ended up at oh gosh, Gannett. Wow, I almost forgot the name of it.
Yeah, Gannett Peak, which I would say was hands down, I would say that was the hardest trip that you and I took together.
Yes, it was gnarly.
Yeah. So talk us through a couple of, your recollections, and you don't gotta try to paint me in a good light here, because it was a rough trip. But yeah, to kind of talk, tell everyone kind of, high points and, definitely some of the low points of that trip.
Well, I mean, the high point, or one of the high points, is we had all six of us together, right? So we got this bomb trip, and before the trip we had we had gotten a little bit of money from an online contest that we had entered our team in, and kind of, advertised our group a little bit in order to
Yep.
try to get a little bit of funding. So obviously one of the high points was we won that sort of grant, if you will, and then got some money to use for this trip and potentially other trips. But so that felt good from the sense of like we had just a little bit of funding to help us with this trip, and buy some folks some good gear that, in my opinion, now as a member of a mountain rescue unit is certainly paramount.
Sure.
That you have. So got some of that stuff, and then chug through. And Gannett Peak, if you don't know, is one of the highest point in Wyoming, but it's kind of unique in the fact that you can't see it from any road, right? So no matter where you are on a road in a car, you cannot see the peak, and so you have to hike a long freaking ways in to get there. And that was the crux of it, right? Like it was just a long way, and yeah, there was elevation ups and downs, and at the end there's some mountaineering and stuff, but like the crux of that trip was just, it was long, and we had, like, we were going there for like 7 days, so we brought a lot of freaking stuff, and we ate very well, and we brought a lot of technical gear that, looking back at it, we definitely didn't need, but we wanted to have it because we were new and we didn't know. So we had very heavy packs, and we had, we were able to hire some porters for the first 2 days, I believe, which was really nice. And we got to basically day pack it, even less than that. I think we shared a couple day packs. Like some people were hiking without packs for the first day or two. We were moving it between people, right? So that part was really sweet. But then obviously once we had to shoulder the load, got a lot gnarlier, and that turned into some obviously massive blisters on your part. But then just, my shoulders were just killing me, and headaches, and just like with anything in the mountains, you can't keep up with the hydration and food intake usually. So I think the super heavy packs, the long distances, really sort of took their toll on us, to where we sort of were at that point on the summit day or morning of, and then we ran into, so if we back up a day too, then we ran into a pretty gnarly storm, right? Like the day before we were going to summit, where it wasn't like thundering or lightning or anything, but it was pretty good sized hail and rain, right? And we're hopping in these boulder fields. I
think you made it up to what was supposed to be our high
and it
camp.
Was flooded, completely flooded. Yeah. And so we had radios at that point. Again, looking back on the trip, we did a lot of things right. We had some radios. So I think you and Joe and maybe Ben were hunkering down under some rocks.
We found like almost like a little cave, and like Ben was just like, we're not gonna push it. Let's go and pull over here.
Yeah,
let's pull over here, and we're just gonna camp out here and hang out until we get some radio contact.
Which was a good idea, because where we were trying to go, literally, I don't think it ever became unflooded in the 2 or 3 days we were there. Because there was so much water. So we eventually camp on like a little snowfield, which was cold, but it's flat, and literally in the middle of, and these aren't just like rocks. These are massive fridge to car size boulders that for you, I think, is just super challenging terrain to move through. Right. So I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but that was just super difficult.
Well, I mean, it was super difficult for me, but like then for you and Ben and Joe, because you guys were the ones guiding me through those technical sections. Like, I mean, it was exhausting for you guys. Like you're mentally trying to look and find, all right, like there's no smooth path here.
No.
There's like, how do we describe this? How do we navigate this? Like for you guys, it was just like y'all were trashed. At that point too.
And to back to our point about being efficient with our words too, right? Like that was very challenging to be efficient with our words and not slip ourselves. So, so we camped there, and then on the snow, and then I think we took a rest day. We did, which was again very needed. Pete did a nice job with his trip planning here. So we take a rest day and we fuel up, and I think Peter even made
I
pad
made
pad
pizza.
thai, and he made pizza. That's right.
Yeah,
Holy
we had
smokes.
pad thai and pizza that
And
day.
pizza. So like the odds were in our favor as far as, fueling up. And then we eventually go up and go for the summit. And I think we sent Ben and Joe out first or something to try to, I forget, what did we do? No, was it you go first? I forget. We had two groups.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Pete and Joe followed. I think
oh,
it was
that's what
you
it
because
was.
it was
Yeah.
you, me, Ben, and Justin went out
Justin.
first
Okay.
because
We knew it would be slow.
because we knew it was going to be it was going to
Yeah.
be a slow grind of a day.
Yeah. And I think they literally
Um,
like cleaned up breakfast and like camp and like did chores, right?
yeah, pretty
Maybe filtered
much.
a little bit more water and then kind of came up behind us and we literally just
Yeah,
ate and took a piss and went.
yeah, exactly.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, okay.
But that was a super challenging day for
Oh
me
God, yeah.
because so kind of walk us through like kind of what happened, the decisions that kind of we made, and like the whole like our decision making process that day because you did go for the summit and you
Mm-hmm.
went and you made the
We made
summit.
it. Yep.
Yep.
So we get to
Uh,
so the blisters on your heels at this point, just for reference, are like almost $half size, right? They're huge.
yeah.
So we know that and we try to help it, but obviously the thing you need is to not be walking on them and to have them open to the air and to
Right.
let them heal, right? You need to walk in sandals for a week to have them heal. That's what you need. And obviously we're not going to do that for a couple days from where we are. So
No.
so we try to put some moleskin and duct tape and stuff on it and tighten up your shoes and or your boots and do everything we can, but it's still there for you. And we all know that. So yeah, we end up, making it through the boulder field, the end of it, which we hadn't actually made it through the end of it yet. So we get to the end of it and then we start going up just a little bit, on sort of a more like straight alpine snow, like, with some rock bands in it, and moving over snow with ice axes and sort of true technical snow mountaineering, if you will. And then I think
Yep.
we hit a point where, you're just like, guys, I can't, I have to go another 24 miles or whatever to get out of here. And, as we've always said it, I think it's Ed Vieser's quote, getting to the top is optional and getting down is mandatory, right? It's
Yep.
only always a return trip. So we sit there for a long time, wasting a lot of time, quite frankly, trying to make a
Oh
decision
yeah.
on what we're going to do, right? Like, do we
Yeah.
sort of, leave you there and make a quick dash to the top and come back and get you on the way down? Or, at the time I remember thinking like, man, that feels kind of not a good team move,
Right.
A, and B, it just feels weird just leaving somebody here.
Yeah.
So I think Justin eventually volunteers to stay with you. And then I felt
Yep.
even worse because I was like, well, damn, what kind of person am I if, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go for the top, like this is dumb. Like, no, that's not the kind of person I am. So um but obviously eventually we make the decision that you're gonna stay there and the four of us, me, Ben, Pete, and Joe are gonna sort of make a mad dash to the top and we
Yep.
literally drop packs and ropes and I think we bring like two packs that again we share between the four of us with a bunch of
Yeah.
water and we bring ice axes and some cliff bars and make a bad dash for the top, which we end up doing pretty quickly and efficiently. We moved
Right.
very quickly. Got to the top, took some pictures, and there were certainly some tears on the top, right? Of like, yeah, it felt really good, but like, man, I wish, Kyle and Justin were here. And that was said at least
Yeah.
5 to 10 times. So
Yeah.
certainly kind of bittersweet, if you will, as we're at the
Sure.
top and looking out. And I took a really cool picture that's literally above my desk to this day. I can literally looking at it right now of
Yep.
the from the top of Gannett Peak. So
Yeah.
it was a cool spot, obviously in the middle of the Wind River Range, and um, but without you, the two of you there, it was kind of bittersweet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
very mixed
But
emotions.
yeah, but I mean, but like looking back, like it really did suck not to make the top. If I, and I talked, I've talked with you and I've talked with Justin, about this so many times over the last, almost 15 years. Like, if I had prepared better, I'd be there. we'd all be on top together.
Right.
And so that really helped, like, me failing to prepare properly and me failing to make the summit helped me succeed, now.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so, like, and look, like, if we had, turned around and gone straight down, it was going to be a grind of a day anyway.
It's a grind either way. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a grind either way. And so, that little 3-hour rest that, Justin and I kind of took. I ate some gummy bears, some goldfish, and drank some water.
A lot of water.
You guys got back to us and, ground our way down, and then just ground our way all the way, humped packs for 24, 25 miles out of there. And
remember that very last day too, like Peter of all people was getting to the point of hitting his limit, which I had never seen up until this point in our 3 or 4 year relationship with him. Right. And again, Peter, if you're listening, that was like pretty crazy moment to me of
unbelievable,
of thinking, man, this guy is like, he's Superman to me at that point. Like his speed and efficiency in the mountains was something I had never seen before. And to see him sort of at his point, right. He even made a quote one day when we were deciding how far we were going to go on that second or the last night, basically, before we made camp.
Yeah.
And he made a comment that we had picked out a spot like another 2 miles down the road or something. And he made a comment like, if we go there, I'm at a point where like I can't care for anybody, and I'm in complete self-care mode, and I'm basically, he's saying I'm going to be toast and I can't help with anything team wise. So I think that it was at that point I was like, okay, let's stop here because we need him at his, we need him. So
none of us were experienced enough at that point
to exhaust him.
Today we could.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we do a lot of things differently now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But
yeah, like at that point in our climbing careers, our outdoor careers, totally different. We were a little bit more reliant.
Yeah, 100%. And I fully admit that. Yeah.
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 But we eventually make it out of there. We eat some pretty awesome barbecue
in
Jackson Hole, and we fly out the next day. Like we're all like sleeping on the floor of this one hotel room. Pete and Monica have the bed, and the rest of us are on like chairs and the floor and all that. But we at least got showers this time.
We did. Yep.
And we fly out, and then you and I did a small little fun backpacking trip in Florida. But
that's right. Forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun little 3 day little trip where I think that was a trip where you were like, Kyle, if we're going to do any more trips together, you got to learn how to operate a Whisperlight stove. So like we basically spent.
We tried. I tried. I think you got it lit at one. Man,
I got it lit.
Yeah, that Whisperlight stove finally died. But that's funny you mentioned that. That thing was like 15, 20 years old. It finally died last summer. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
We did some stuff with stoves, and we were trying to figure out a system because obviously you can't see the flame being lit. So we were playing around with the sounds and stuff. That's right. I totally forgot about that.
Yep. Because like we had some plans. Like we were like, look, if we're going to be doing like high altitude stuff, like we have to whether it's a Whisperlight, whether it's a pocket rocket,
a jet boil or an MSR
or a jet boil or MSR or something like that. We were like, there's going to be times when like we're going to need to we're going to need to everyone's going to have to boil water, everyone's going to have to cook, everyone's going to have to do this, that, and the other. So like let's figure this out. So that was kind of the point of our little trip, was figuring, like, you and I had worked out our systems of hiking and all that, but then we also, it was like, all right, now it's time to knuckle down and figure out systems here. Unfortunately, we didn't get to we haven't gotten to utilize those skills and stuff, and I think the equipment nowadays is a little bit better, so we'll actually be able when we eventually do get back out on a mountainside together, it'll be a little bit easier. But then you went on to do some pretty cool stuff after that, because you got into mountain rescue, and
I did.
So talk us, tell us a little bit about your mountain rescue career and, moving out to the Cascades and some of the
Yeah.
kind
So
of the
then,
more fun adventures you've gotten up to since
yeah,
we last,
since we
caroused together.
so that was like middle of college for me, right when we went to Gannett. So I went back to Madison, and did either 2 or 3 more years. I was just trying to do the math, and I can't find the dates on these pictures, but we did a couple more years of college. Was a member of the climbing team there, or the climbing club there, and the ski and snowboard club. So went to places like Jackson Hole, I think 2 more times. Went to Big Sky and did some skiing there. Just normal college ski trips basically. And then yeah, at the end of college, or between my fourth and my fifth year, sort of interned with Liberty Mutual Insurance, and they had an office in northern Wisconsin. And then they eventually, and then I interviewed for a full-time position with them and their software engineering sort of job family. And with the notion that I knew they had an office in Seattle. So my goal was to basically make it out to the Northwest,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously where I ended up, or make it to the Colorado area near you.
Yep.
And obviously ended up in the Northwest because Liberty offered me a job in Seattle. So took the job in Seattle and quite frankly, never left. So obviously I've moved around a couple of times, met my wife here, and now we have two little girls that are also were born here. So I live north of Seattle now in a town called Snohomish, and I'm a part of the two major search and rescue units. So I basically had some knowledge of mountain rescue because Pete was in Eugene Mountain Rescue, right? And he talked
Mm-hmm.
about it a fair amount and was actually fairly active, I believe, for a number of years before
Yep.
he had his son
Yep.
and did a career change into the fire service and stuff.
Yep.
So basically, and I think I believe I even got a letter of recommendation from him
Yep.
for my initial entry into Everett Mountain Rescue. So the state of Washington has 9 or 11, I forget, mountain rescue units
Mm-hmm.
scattered across the state, most of them in Western Washington. I'm a member of Everett Mountain Rescue. And so obviously we serve kind of the entire region, but our main area is Snohomish County, which is the county I'm in. So kind of in the north to central Cascades on the western side of the crest.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a member of that unit, and that's obviously primarily ground-based. And we do everything from lost hikers to injured hikers or climbers to
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately body recoveries and things like that. So
Yeah.
a member of that, and then a couple 4 years ago, I got invited to be a member of the helicopter rescue team. So here in Snohomish County, we have
Oh,
a
wow.
helicopter rescue team that is pretty unique setup where basically almost everybody is a volunteer. It's run through the sheriff's department. All of our funding comes in via federal grants and or donations.
Mm-hmm.
And so they pick their what's called rescue techs, which is one of the spots in the back of the helicopter from the mountain rescue unit. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of just an invitation only thing, and they asked me to join the team. So for the last 4 years, I've been a member of the Snohomish County Helicopter Rescue Team as a rescue technician on the team. Sort of again serving the greater Snohomish County area, but then also we'll help out in King County, which is the county where Seattle is, or sometimes north up to Bellingham by Mount Baker, or Skagit County. So that all
So
kind of
as
started because of Pete.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but as part of the helicopter rescue, I mean, like, are you flying in and then are you rappelling in to
Yeah. Yep.
like kind of talk us through what your duties are as a rescue tech?
Yeah, so we fly most of the time fly a 5-person crew, right? So we have 2 pilots in the front. One of them's the pilot in command, who's in charge of the whole, like, has responsibility for everything, and the other person is the primary flying pilot most of the time. So we got 2 pilots, and then in the back of the helicopter we have the crew chief, who's the guy sort of on the side of the helicopter. He's basically controlling everything in the back, so he's operating the hoist, the winch that's going to go up and down.
Yep.
And then is literally in charge of a lot of the mechanical and logistical things in the back of the helicopter, and he's kind of like in charge in the back. And then the last 2 people are the rescue tech. That's the position I serve, and then our flight medic. So the rescue techs are all EMTs, so we're EMT basics, if you will, just kind of the entry level EMT. And then all of our flight medics are paramedics within the county, so they volunteer their time to come fly with us. Our normal operation is we'll fly in, do an orbit, check it out, and then insert the rescue tech and the medic. So the the normal process is we'll go in, and then it's on a hoist hook. So I'm not actually like rappelling. I'm being lowered via
Yep.
a hoist hook, and
Yep.
the crew chief is controlling that. So yeah, they lower me, and then on the ground, the tech is in charge of, anchoring if there's things like that, or
Hmm.
just sort of the more technical nature, and then assisting with the patient care. So obviously the flight medic is going to be the primary person in charge of patient care when we hit the ground.
Hmm.
But then obviously as an EMT, I can assist him or her with patient care if needed. So
Hmm.
oftentimes, due to the nature of how many people get out, part of my job is corralling people.
Yeah.
You're kind of the main safety on the ground too. So that could be everything from, hey, we're on a 30-degree slope. Let's throw a quick anchor around this tree and let's secure, both me and the medic in, and then secure the litter in or whatever. Or it could be, hey, let's all this loose tents and foam pads and stuff. When the rotor's wash comes back, it's gonna whip all that up into the rotor. That's not going to be good. So let's secure
No.
all that stuff. So just general, you're like a general catch-all for your primary thing is technical in nature, right? So
Right.
that's why you're called the rescue tech. So, but you're kind of like they pick from the mountain rescue unit because of their background in mountaineering,
Hmm.
and you're expected to come in with those skills, and then they pay you to go to EMT school, and then they'll teach you obviously a lot of the helicopter skills, but they expect
Hmm.
you to come in with climbing experience, avalanche rescue experience,
Hmm.
backcountry hiking and skiing experience, things like that, and then you
Hmm.
bring that knowledge to the team. So um, it's been
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool. It certainly was, on my radar of things that I would, wanted to do, but didn't expect it to come along this quickly. So
Yeah. Yeah.
super
It's a
fun team to be a part of.
yeah. How often do you, get calls out, and like, is it year round?
It's year round. Obviously, it's much more. It's funny you actually say that. We have a mission going literally on right now.
Oh, wow.
At a but it doesn't happen much in the winter, right? I guess my point is that's the
Right.
first mission we've had in a couple months. Then in the summer we could have 2 in a weekend,
Okay.
or 3 in a week, just because the summer is a much more common time. A lot of trailheads around here are blocked by snow,
Hmm.
and there's like 8 hours in the day, and we rarely fly at night unless it's life or limb kind of thing. So
Right.
during the winter, we're very much skeleton crew, or not
Yeah.
skeleton crew, but it's a lot less versus the summer. We could have 10, 15 missions in a month sometimes at, July and August. So
Wow.
you basically sign up for duty days. So, I'll sign up for whatever Friday and Wednesday or something.
Hmm.
And I think we have 9 techs now. So they generally say 4 days a month that you're signed up for. And if you're signed up and a page goes out, I just get a text to my phone. If a page
Yep.
goes out, you got to go, versus Mountain Rescue, which you get a page again via text message, and then you sort of decide if you're going to go. You don't have to go. It's all,
Right.
um, but on the Helo team, if you're on duty and a page goes out, you have to go.
Yeah.
And our goal is to be in the air at an hour. So where I
Wow.
live in relation to the hangar, it's about a 10-minute, 12-minute drive to the hangar. I need about 20, 25 minutes when I get there to change, usually
Yep.
take a leak. And then I have like 10 or 15 minutes of stuff I have to do on the helicopter, and help the rest of the team get stuff ready, right?
Yep.
And figure out what the mission is, get coordinates plugged into my phone, and just get gear loaded on the helicopter. So long story short, I have about 10 to 15 minutes when I get a page before I need to literally be going out the door. So like my bags are always
Wow.
packed and things like that.
Yep.
So but generally, like, I'm not the most active person on the team, but like I think last summer, I did 3 or 4 missions on the
Okay.
helicopter team. So
Okay.
again, some years you get really lucky, right? And you could sign up for a Tuesday and a Wednesday and get missions both days. And then like last year I signed up for a whole bunch of weekends and basically got one like the whole summer, right? And this year I think
Right.
I had one on a Tuesday and one on a Saturday afternoon and another one on a Thursday. So it's kind of luck of the draw
Yeah.
sometimes. Obviously, the weekends are more popular, but in the
Sure.
summer around here, there's always people out. So, yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild to, you know, to think back on, man, like, from a Wisconsin kid that,
Hmm.
didn't,
Yep.
didn't have a ton of outdoor experience until,
I
we
had
started
none. Yeah.
bumming around in Peru and
Yep.
Africa, and then, you know, playing in the Pacific Northwest, and, now you're on a Helo team,
Yeah. It's
going
wild,
in.
right?
It's pretty crazy, man.
All in the
It's
span of, so it's 2023.
Yeah.
and we took our trip to the Inca Trail or the Inca Scotia Trail in 2007, I believe. So that's
Yeah,
16
it's 2000,
years.
yeah, 2006 for Peru and 2007 for Kilimanjaro. So yeah,
Okay,
16,
yeah,
17
16,
years.
17 years. That all transpired. Pretty
It's
wild.
crazy, man. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, man. Oh man, I mean, I could talk for. I mean, we could talk for hours. We have talked for hours
We've talked.
before.
Yeah.
Not
Yes.
not recently. Not enough. We haven't done enough talking
We have
together
not.
enough. But
No.
uh, but I was I tell everyone that hey, like we need to make sure to get back out in the backcountry again, whether that's skiing, whether that's skiing or hiking or trail running or something. Like there's gonna be something, and even if it's just you bring in your wife and the girls to to my parents' ranch in Colorado. Like we gotta do something
Got to do
together.
something.
So
Yes.
and
Yes. Definitely.
I'm in your neck of the woods enough now that there's no excuse. I got to just hop on a ferry and from Victoria to Seattle, and you
Well,
know
yeah, now stuff's a little more open too, so I think that'll be a
exactly,
little easier to do.
exactly.
So yeah, certainly whenever you're up there, just let me know and you can hop on that ferry.
Yeah, will do, bro.
Yeah, and obviously,
Will
I mean,
do.
your area is on our always on our list. I mean, I've been there a bunch of times,
Yep,
just to the Rockies in general, just to
yep,
obviously an absolutely gorgeous place. So we'll
yeah.
have to
No.
certainly make that happen.
Yeah, we're gonna make it
Yeah.
happen. We're gonna make it happen soon, bro. But yeah, man, just I mean, you so many memories with you. You know, you you know you you've guided me on some of the most gnarly terrain and that we can imagine. We've shared a lot of tents together. We've shared a lot of meals together, and
Yep.
it's funny. Like most of the time that we have spent together in person has been outdoors.
Not in a hotel or a normal
No,
street or a restaurant or yeah.
no, yeah,
Yep.
and I think that's pretty cool and that's pretty
It is cool.
special.
Yeah.
So just number one, thanks for
Of course.
all
Thanks
of
for having me, man.
all of your your adventures, your French, your friendship first and foremost, and just this has been a blast catching up and kind of reliving some of
Yeah.
some of your memories and hearing about the kind of stuff that you're up to nowadays is awesome, man. So thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it.
You've helped me a ton over the years, and those trips that we took together definitely still fuel me. And I apply everything that I used in the mountains to triathlon and to elite sport now. So it's pretty cool.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I can't say I've been on many podcasts, but this is a pretty cool experience. But I think one, I obviously, as we talked about in the beginning, I learned a lot about myself in the
Hmm.
world, if you will. That's really sound like a parent right now, but I think looking back again, I think this whole time I've been looking back retrospectively on this, all of our time together, it just opened my eyes up and culturally speaking, kind of
Hmm.
made me into the person I am today and fueled my love for travel and obviously of the mountains, but also just, becoming a sort of a better person and being more empathetic and open and
Yeah,
understanding of other people that are different than me. Because
yeah,
again, I was now we're getting stereotypical here. I was a white kid growing up and a white male, privileged white male growing up in Wisconsin, right? Like I
yeah.
didn't have a lot of exposure outside of that. So we
Hmm.
took tons of trips as a kid with my parents. They took us all over the U.S. and the world in some cases.
Yep,
So we had plenty of experiences, but there was just a whole nother side of things that I hadn't seen before. So
yep.
that part was really cool. And then, yeah, I mean, now looking, as far as your second part, like I look at what you and I did, and now I look at some of the stuff that you're doing now. It's like, man, it's just blows my mind. Some of the stuff you're doing with with triathlons and going over to Tokyo and the times you're putting up and the people you're working with, like, some of your partners and guides and stuff now, it's like, holy smokes, I gotta step my game up because these cats are just insanely. So, I mean, obviously this is really cool to watch.
Yeah.
you kind of go through that. And I know obviously you had, your own challenges after college and,
Yeah.
personally and professionally and trying to find your way. So
Yep.
I'm just glad, you kind of found your thing and are doing well.
Yeah.
It's really really cool to see. So
Uh,
it's
I
been fun to
appreciate it, bro.
watch from the sidelines as I, kind of obviously we kind of sort of I don't want to say went our own ways, but we kind of like have our own things going, right? And just,
Yeah.
kind of watching you from your newsletters and your Facebook pages and different things like that. And I think I watched one of your races on whatever streaming site on the internet.
Yeah.
And it was just like kind of cool to see. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
it's been
mean,
fun.
yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, you know, you know, I I basically took the communication stuff that you and I perfected in the mountains, and I
Took it
just
to the
applied.
triathlon.
I just took it to triathlon, and
Yeah.
and now I teach that to, and I teach that to new guide athlete pairs, and it's so like
Really freaking cool.
what you and I kind of started and figured out in 2006 2007. That's it's helped me 16 17 years later, and
Hmm.
and bro, we got we got some epic adventures coming up post Paris that you're going to be a part of, so keep your phone close at hand.
I got it close at hand, my guy.
Awesome stuff, man. Well, hey man, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I know you got to get back to dad duty.
It's almost
uh
nap time is almost over.
Yep. So I know you got to get back to dad duty.
Yep.
So give the wife a big hug, and give the girls big hugs and kisses. But hey, everyone, I think you can tell that Brad has been an instrumental part of my life, and just a real cool, chill dude. And without like I say, without Brad, I don't get to have some of the coolest experiences that I've had in my life, and I don't think I truly don't think I am as successful in triathlon as I have been without without the perspective and all that the trips that Brad and I took back in the day. So Brado, thanks man, always good
Thanks for having
catching
me
up.
on, man. This was a great time.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, we've come to the end of another Kicking It with the KTrain. So, as always, keep an eye on your vision.